to another installment of Reasonably Tactical. We have a very big show for you guys today. We've got a lot to cover. So, Marty, I'm going to kick it to you. What do we got for today's show?
All right, so the focus of today, we're going to talk about fitness. You know, everybody talks about how they're going to protect themselves and self-perseverance, but, you know, I'm sure you've seen it too. Those types, they walk in, they're grossly overweight, and it's like, let's start at the the baseline. Like, it doesn't matter if you can shoot or if you know how to use a knife. If you're going to have a heart attack moving 100 meters, it's all for nothing. So we're going to talk about the importance of fitness when it comes to self-protection. But first, we're going to talk about a couple other things that people have been reaching out about. And we do have a guest today, a good friend of mine, Korinn. She helped me get through the Law Enforcement Academy. She was my voice of reason to vent to during breaks as I was going nuts. But, she'll give some input on the fitness stuff as well. Go ahead, give a little bit about yourself.
Well, so my name is Korinn. I live in Burlington, Wisconsin, originally from Waterford, Wisconsin. I met Marty when we were in the academy, and we've been friends ever since. But as far as me, I'm a deputy sheriff for a local department here, and I haven't always been a police officer. I just recently, in the last couple of years, decided to become a police officer, and I love it. It's where I finally feel like I found purpose in life and feel like I'm going in the right direction. For a long time, you think you're going to be in a certain career, and you decide to change it all up and go after what you really want. And I feel like I'm where I should be.
That's great.
Awesome. I appreciate you coming in today. I know it's early, and I know you got to work this afternoon, so
yeah,
definitely great to have you here. So we're going to start off, people have reached out. We've had, in the last week, 4 major incidents of people getting shot for doing seemingly minor things. We all know, the national focus was on the teen that went to the wrong door looking to pick up his siblings and was shot. You have the folks that pulled in the wrong driveway and were shot. The teenagers that walked up to the wrong car.
Yeah. There's two incidents of that. There was one at a gas station, and then there was the other one
like in the
with the 2 cheerleaders. Yeah, exactly.
And then there was the, father and child basketball went in the yard and the guy shot them. Like, it's anybody can carry a gun. It doesn't make you a tough guy, and unfortunately with the fear mongering and everybody's a threat out there, that's nonsense. I mean, you go through your everyday life, you have to interact with people. And if you're that scared of everything, every shadow, and you're hiding in your hole and somebody comes down your driveway or comes up to your front door and you're scared, like, you need help. Like there's something wrong with you. And you probably shouldn't have firearms, whatever happened, like target identification.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the basics and the fundamentals that have been missing in a lot of this for so long is proper training, proper education, and like you said, proper threat assessment. That is something that has been missing, even in law enforcement too, from what I've heard.
Yeah, and it's always identify yourself. What are you doing here? What do you want? And you'll find out it's probably something pretty meaningless. I mean, verbalizing and communication is the key to diffusing any situation. And for those of you that are out there, and the boogeyman's not behind every corner, he's not hiding in the shadows. You're more likely to be robbed or attacked by somebody you know anyway. So all the security cameras and guns in the world aren't going to help you if you're inviting your potential attacker into your house anyways, because there's somebody you know.
Yeah, goes with the idea of training to protect yourself by going hands-on instead of just ultimately resulting to using a firearm instead. Like
right.
You should really train for your own protection. Train for your life, not just to shoot.
And then too, just on a way to protect yourself from these type of things. The big thing is situational awareness. Like I've had it too, man. I've owned Jeeps and Jeep Cherokees and stuff like that in the past, and not paying attention, walk up to the wrong car and like, why isn't this unlocking? And it's happened to everybody.
It's the most ambiguous vehicle, by the way.
Yeah,
I've got a Wrangler, and I've been the first to admit, like I've walked up to.
Like, oh, this isn't mine.
Well then,
so
there's only 3 ducks in this one. What the hell?
Exactly. Put the phone down when you're walking around and make sure you're walking the right vehicle and check the address and same thing. Somebody yells at you, immediately identify yourself and like, hey, sorry, my mistake, and back away, live to fight another day. And And something else I want to talk about. People have reached out. It's been on the news for the past few days. What's going on in Sudan, and there's counting 16,000 U.S. citizens are still there, and it blows my mind that we have a government right now that's like, well, it's too dangerous. Other countries are evacuating their citizens, whether by land or by port, but our government's saying it's too dangerous, and we've unfortunately set this precedence over the past 10 years now. Going back to Libya, what happened there, and not helping our folks immediately. Look at Afghanistan, that debacle with evacuations, and now this. And I think it's time for everyone to we got to recalibrate our focus on what's right and what's important. We get really spun up on these little ankle biter things that, in the grand scheme of things, don't matter. Like we argue daily about politics and stuff that, like, whatever the trending thing for the week is, what's important. And it's like, come on, none of that really matters in the grand schemes. But when we're talking about 16,000 U.S. citizens stuck in a foreign country where a civil war is happening, I'd expect more. And people love movies, and they talk about Dunkirk being this great movie. And it's like, that really happened. Like, it's a real event. And, the Brits mobilized everybody they had that had a boat to go rescue their own folks. And what we saw in Afghanistan, people, nonprofits mobilizing to rescue Afghan citizens. I would hope that the U.S. would have the same thing.
So I guess my question is, being that you were in the military and you understand a procedure a little bit better than the average citizen, what do you think is the trepidation of us going in to pull out and extract our own citizens?
I think it just strictly goes back to loss of focus of what's important. Non-combatant evacuation operations used to be a bread and butter of what any embassy team would do. And like we saw, they got themselves out there, but your average citizen doesn't realize, like, well, if something happens, the embassy's just going to get themselves out. Your average citizen does the right thing. They're traveling to country X. They report, hey, this is where I'm going to be. This is where I'm going to stay in case something happens. Well, unfortunately, I hate to say it, and I take no pride in saying it, but our government's not going to help you out. And it goes back to our initial episode, like, nobody's coming to help. What are you going to do?
Exactly. And that's, I think, what people are missing is the fact that, like you said, you are your own advocate. If you see something, say something, or see something, get the hell out of danger.
Right. That's the first step to protect yourself. Is if you see stuff, they talk about the sixth sense thing. If the hair starts standing on, trust that gut instinct and get out of there.
Yeah.
So, we just got to do better. I hope, listeners, if, write to your representatives and, the politicians, and say, hey, we got to do better. And whether it's, at this point, it's so late, we got to, use, corporate companies to pull people out or nonprofits to pull people out. Do whatever we need to do to get our U.S. citizens home safely.
Oh, right. And that should be paramount of any government, is to get their citizens, I would say. But, this ties in with things that we've talked about with preparation and things like that. And I think this will segue beautifully into fitness, because if you are your own personal protection advocate, you need to be at the top of your game, at the absolute peak of everything. So
yeah. And it's, people, when they hear fitness or talk about exercise, you don't have to be a Greek god. Like, I've definitely been in better physical shape, but, I can still do what I need to do. I even heard people, like, when I've offered, like, hey, I'll help you out, and like, well, I got to get in shape first. And it's like, no, like the whole point is, to start doing stuff, and we can start.
It's like washing your ass before taking a shit. I mean, it's like I got to get fit to get fit. I'm like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, you just got to start. So I'm currently reading the book, The Gift of Violence by Matt Thornton, and one of the things he chimes in on is fitness, and it was a huge, like, sanity check for me. And there's a quote that he says, if you don't put fitness at the top of your self-preservation list, self-preservation isn't the thing that really motivates you. Wow. So for all these guys that, take these kung fu, death, street fighting classes, or they want to take all these concealed carry classes, but they show up and they're grossly overweight, like, hey, if you're really concerned about self-preservation, you'd be worried about your health and your ability to move and get away from harm, versus you want to be cool and have all the kit and
Well, like they said, mobility is survivability. That's key.
To
all of that. And the thing is, first off, I'm glad you mentioned that book. I have started reading the Kindle edition, it's excellent.
Yeah,
You are
yeah.
absolutely right. Thank you so much for that recommendation on that, and a totally shameless plug for the book, but I really don't care. It's worth the read. But, you know, the thing too that I see with people that come in to want to train Krav Maga, you've got two different types of people. Like you said, the people that want to learn the cool shit. There's no other way.
the
They
Hollywood
want to be,
stuff.
yes,
Yeah.
they want to be tactically cool, and they want to, oh my God, I want to disarm somebody. I want to learn how to do this and that. That's great. But let's start with a warm up first. And most people fail in that 15-minute warm up. And it's not intended to do that. It's intended to start a baseline of fitness, which is why every class, I make sure we drill that part home. And that's something that I'm very proud of because, like you said, if you don't have that baseline of fitness, anything else you train, anything else you do, doesn't matter. I'm going to throw it to you because I know you've been waiting so patiently and so
No,
sweet.
you're
So
doing your
please
thing.
go
No.
right ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I definitely agree. A baseline of fitness is really important. You know, I haven't always been fit, and for a long time, especially in my 20s, you know, my childbearing years, I had all my kids in my 20s, so I wasn't really in shape. But in my mid 20s, there became a point where I remember seeing a photo of myself and my husband on our 5th wedding anniversary, and I was like, dang, like being a mom and, you know, working and not taking care of myself had really caught up. And so I decided, you know, I needed to get that baseline of fitness. And it started with, I mean, even stay-at-home moms, you know, you can do stuff at home when your kids are napping. So like, that's where I started, you know, the basic half-hour body weight thing in your living room. And, you know, me as a goal-oriented person, I really was like, all right, here's my goal. I want to, you know, look good naked, because most women do, you're right. So that was, you know,
As
where
a
I got
guy,
to.
we appreciate that as a goal.
Definitely
Thank you
appreciate
so
it, yeah.
much for
Yeah,
that.
and I mean, it sounds stupid, but you know, the average female's like, yeah, I want to look good. So, you know, once I had finally lost, I think I lost like 30 pounds doing that at home. And then I was like, okay, what's next? Then I started running, and I was running up to 7 miles a couple days a week. And then I was like, all right, I feel like I've reached my goal weight. I feel like I look good. And then I was like, what next? So then I ultimately decided to compete in bodybuilding, which
Wow.
was a huge goal. I found a coach, and I ended up doing it within 6 months. I got on stage for the first time, and it was pretty like exhilarating and a huge life lesson. I think I learned more about what is in food than I ever had in my life. You know, I could look at a plate and go, okay, that's this many grams of protein, this many grams of carbs, this many grams of fat. And then after competing in that first one, I was like, I think I'm going to coach myself through another one, because I felt I had learned so much about macronutrients. And I ended up doing that in the following year. And then shortly after that, I got pregnant with my third. And during my pregnancy with my youngest, I actually worked out the entire pregnancy.
Wow.
I think I lifted all the way up until I was 36 weeks, and I had him at 37. And then, you know, after having him, when he was in his toddler years, I had been at the Grand Geneva for about 16 years at that time, maybe 15, 16 at the time. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I waited in a fine dining restaurant, and although I loved it, I loved serving people and I loved helping people, it was becoming complacent. I felt complacent in my life. So I decided,
Like Groundhog Day. Same
yeah,
thing.
it was just like going to work,
Yeah.
waiting on the
Yeah.
same people, doing the
Yeah.
same thing. I could literally do it in my sleep, which I often did. Server nightmares are a real thing. So then I ended up, you know, talking to friends, like, what can I do? And for a long time, I always wanted to be a police officer, but I never got to it. You know, it didn't work for our family. There were multiple times I had approached my husband, like, I really want to go to school to do something, you know, and it just wasn't the right time for our family. And then at that moment, I was like, you know what, I'm doing it. So I ended up putting myself through college while I was still working at the Grand Geneva as a mom of 3. And then I started applying to agencies, and I got in with the agency I'm currently in now, and went through the academy with 3 kids. And yeah, it's been a
Well,
ride.
4 if you count Marty.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. They didn't call me Mama Bourdo in the academy.
Exactly. Oh, Mama Bourdo. Yeah, taking care of us.
But no, it's been a ride. And I feel like fitness was the pillar of that, because had I not started small, I wouldn't be where I am today because
It's that first step. It's
the first
like you
step.
said, taking 30 minutes in your living room.
Yeah.
While the kids are taking a nap and just doing some type of movement.
Yeah,
just
that's
body
all
weight.
it takes.
Yeah.
But you got to start small to get where you want to be eventually. And I definitely would not be where I am now if I didn't start with those 30-minute workouts in my living room.
But so you talk about 6 months to train up for the competition, and then a year later you did one. So it takes time to get in shape. People look for that magic pill, or I'm going to go to the gym once and I'm going to meet this miracle trainer that's going to give me the gift. And it takes time and patience. And I think you hit on this is setting goals.
Yeah.
And be realistic about those goals. Find someone you can train with that set goals that are achievable, but still challenge you, and stick with it. And it's there's always hiccups. There's always obstacles that will kind of set you back. And it's okay to have a cheat day and eat pizza or drink beer. And
oh man, were Oreos my thing? No, but for real. And I even when I initially started that process, in the bodybuilding world, I didn't look at it as much as like I'm gonna win. I didn't go in it to win. I did it for my own personal goal. It was like I know I want to get up on that stage in a bikini and be like, hey, I did it. So
and it was legit. Like I saw someone sitting at lunch in the academy one day, convinced her to actually pop out the photos, and it was like, good God, she was jacked. Like I was like, man,
I look at that now, and my muscles were not even mature at that time. So that was just like, and now, like I think if I would do it now, I would probably be more successful in it, but I don't have time for that.
All your overtime and everything.
Yeah, I work too much.
But it's we talk about this because people, constantly immortalize different things throughout history, and every successful fighting force from, the Spartans, and everybody's got their little lambda sticker on their car or truck, and, to the Romans, the British SAS, Delta Force, Green Berets, SEALs, you name them. Fitness is paramount. That is the foundation, is fitness. And then they start building off of that. But if you can't do the move part of shoot, move, communicate, like what's the point of doing anything else? And some of the reasons why it's so important is, to train for fitness, because you get in a fight, if you run out of energy, you're dead.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's it. You lost because you ran out of energy. If you don't have that endurance. And then when you're training too, like you said, for the warm up, get that heart rate up, because we can't attack you with a real knife. We can't shoot at you, but we can give that physical stressor to get.
Well, we can do it. Yeah, you signed a waiver, Marty. That's what a waiver is for.
I knew I should have signed that piece of paper. But it mimics that stress that the body will experience.
Yeah.
So that physical activity is a good stressor, as well as physical stressors like test your mind, your body, and your heart. Because I've seen all the selections I've been to get to the organizations I was in. Guys, inevitably, the vast majority of guys self-selected because they started feeling sorry for themselves because it sucked. You had little sleep, little to eat. Your body was wore out, and they'd start, woe is me, what am I doing? And next, I voluntarily withdraw, and that's where it tests all that, the mind, body, and your heart. Because if you need to go see the wizard and get yourself some heart, then either do it or it's not gonna move on. It doesn't make you a bad person. And obviously, like elevated fitness allows you to fight longer, faster, and harder. Right. So you get in that fight. If you're, grossly out of shape, you're gonna last 30 seconds, a minute.
Yeah.
Versus somebody that's in shape and might be smaller than you that will just sit there and wear you out.
Well, let's go back, real quick, just to the basics of like just wrestling or grappling. What's the number one rule? Aside from, don't submit or don't get easily submitted, right, is to tire out your opponent.
Right.
And to sit there. And I've told people, right, wrong, whatever. I said, if your brain just fizzles out and you're in the middle of a street fight and you forget what to do and you're grappling, just get yourself in a controlled position where you could protect yourself and let them tire themselves out. Give yourself time to think. Give yourself time to recalculate. Then strike. Then come back. Because hopefully at that point, you've got something that you can turn into a valuable position. You could better your position. That's what the whole thing that we talk about
It's a game of chess.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's funny you bring that up because I remember, this is a long time ago, young private Marty, many moons ago. And we had a team leader in our platoon And this guy, man, he was like one of the only people that I just could not hang with when it came to any type of ground stuff. And he wouldn't break a sweat. He wouldn't breathe hard. And he would try everything and just get more frustrated. And you could tell he was just enjoying it. And it just never was able to beat that guy, man.
Yeah.
He went on to do much bigger and better things. And but the real good fighters won't even appear to be exerting energy, because they're so conditioned.
Well, they make it look simple because, like you said, it's the conditioning combined with the knowledge of, okay, I don't have to go above and beyond all the time. I have to kind of manage my energy ever so much. I mean, and it is a delicate balance between not exerting yourself in one dump. I mean, now in your case where you're doing, bodybuilding and lifting, that's a totally different type of conditioning because you're conditioning muscles to grow as opposed to necessarily endurance and everything. But if you don't mind me asking, just from my own, morbid curiosity, and give me those photos later. By the way. Just kidding. No, if you don't mind, I'd like to know a little bit more about what your routine looked like for somebody that wanted to get in. Like when you started this, okay, what did this look like for you? What did an average week of working out kind of look like?
Like currently or back when
back
I was
then?
back then? No.
Yeah.
So I would typically go to the gym and I would do like 20 minutes of cardio before my lift and then another 20 minutes after. So I would typically do the stair mill, a lot of endurance stuff. I do love that HIIT type workout. Those are really effective, especially if you want to build, the heart rate over time, like burns way more calories. So when you're doing a bodybuilding type diet, you are more so focusing on burning calories because you want to burn as much because you're burning fat and building muscle at the same time. So I would do a lot of body weight splits. I really like triceps and biceps. So I always pair workouts. So my heart rate is constantly going up and down, and a lot of plyos between sets. So I would do a set of, bicep curls, then I would do jumping jacks for 30 seconds. And then I would do, a back thing and go back and forth, or step ups or jumps or all kinds of, I was constantly working. And I would be in the gym for like an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. And then I'd have one rest day. And even on my rest days, I'd be active and go for a walk or go for a run. But yeah, it was a lot of working out. It was very structured. And it was mostly food.
Yeah.
And
I live to eat.
I love stuff that tastes good, and that's why I still work out. And I think people forget that fitness isn't just the gym or isn't just diet. It's a combination of the two. Mm-hmm. And it's, like I said, I like stuff that tastes good, so I like to eat. But, at some point, if you're headed down a dark path, you need to get that under control and talk to your doctor and get, a solid diet going.
Yeah. And food is a big part of it. And I even, in the last, year being on patrol, I've really had to learn how to watch what I put in my mouth, because when you're sitting for 8 to 16 hours a day in a squad, like you have to pack like healthy food. So I've been really good on protein shakes and making sure I have protein bars or even like beef sticks and stuff like
jerky.
that in my squad. Yeah, because it's so easy to stop at a Quick Trip and get a freaking breadstick and some dip or egg rolls that they got there. Because the food's delicious, but you can't survive off a diet like that, and you can't out train a bad diet either. So
and it's interesting you bring that up, because obviously you heard my opinions a lot of times during the academy. What
You were
was
opinionated?
not right, yeah.
Oh man, is he ever?
But it's we talked about your bodybuilding experience, but it's different to train for that, to have the big muscles to show off and the definition versus like functional fitness and being that tactical athlete. Mm-hmm. And I remember at the beginning of the academy when they were giving the fitness class, which was left a lot to be desired. I'll leave it at that. And I told everyone, like, look, you're a tactical athlete now. Like, if you want to know what that's about, come talk to me. You name a workout, I can throw it to you. And out of the 38 people in the class, 5 people. Like in the 2.5 years since then, 5 people have reached out, and I've run into these people afterwards, and I mean, you run into them too, and it's like, man, you gotta either get in the gym or you need to put the fork down, and I think what gets me even more is, day one of the academy, they talk about like law enforcement is a paramilitary organization, and just because you have ranks and you carry a gun doesn't make you a paramilitary organization. And it's, like any first responder, whether it's law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, need to train to be that tactical athlete, because you never know what's going to come at you in a day. You never know. I mean, just a simple rescue call. Some of the people you've had to move, it's like,
oh yeah,
hang on, let's get a couple more people here because we got to man up and carry this person.
And I think too, having more of an accountability for where people are at, and like checking who you're really hiring, because there were a lot of people in that class, and when they say not everybody's going to make it, they are damn true about that, because they drop like flies. Once you get into the real world and you apply these things, it really sorts out the people who can't meet the expectations of, general law enforcement. And that's just like,
that's just every day.
That's just every day.
Yeah,
and you think of people that can't even think of things like officer safety things. Like that's a big problem, because you need to have your head on a swivel. And if you can't meet those basic needs, like you're not going to make it. And it's pretty eye-opening to see how many people have dropped off.
Yeah. It's just trying to drive home to people. If you want to increase your chances for survival, start exercising. Today, start exercising.
Yeah.
Cool.
Those are the excuses.
There you go. No excuses.
Well, cool, guys. Marty, bring us home, brother.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good one.